I voted just last night against transferring weapons to Israel.
How did Chuck Schumer vote last night?
And he voted for it. We disagree.
How many
on
people
that.
voted against the weapons?
7 in the Democratic Party.
40 of your colleagues. You and 39 of your colleagues voted to block weapons.
That's correct.
And 7 Democrats, including the leader of your caucus, voted against it. How can he lead a caucus if he's in a minority of 7, Senator Welch?
Well, I don't want to turn this into a discussion about what Chuck Schumer.
I'm just wondering. We don't have to turn it into a discussion. It's a simple question. How does he lead a caucus if 6 people are on his side and 40 of you are against him? I don't understand the math.
40 Democrats voted one way. Their own leader voted the other. And Senator Peter Welch has to sit there and explain how that's supposed to work. Mehdi Hasan plays Chuck Schumer, a clip from last year. Schumer egging Trump on, demanding he be tougher on Iran. No side deals, no folding. Then Mehdi puts the actual vote count on the table. The night before this interview, 40 Senate Democrats, including Welch, voted to block weapons transfers to Israel. Only 7 voted against it. One of those 7 was Chuck Schumer, the leader of the caucus. Watch what Mehdi does with that. He doesn't lecture. He just asks one simple question, over and over. How can Schumer lead a caucus if he's in a minority of 7? Welch tries to wave it off. I don't want to turn this into a discussion about Chuck. Mehdi doesn't let him. It's not a discussion about Chuck. It's a math problem, and the math doesn't move. And later in the same conversation, Welch talks about something that has nothing to do with vote counts at all. A 5-year-old girl named Hind Rajab, on the phone pleading for help, killed along with 6 family members, and the rescue team sent to save her killed right alongside her. No political spin there. Just what happens when accountability disappears. If you're tired of watching party leadership move slower than the party it claims to represent, subscribe to The Honest Perspective. We do the math, and we sit with what it actually costs. I'm Neil. This is The Honest Perspective. 40-7 isn't a disagreement. It's a party that's already moved on without its own leader. Let's get into it.
Help you electorally. On the war, though, I wonder how much it will help you electorally, given there's people like yourself and Bernie Sanders and others who have been very critical, Chris Murphy, of this war from the outset. But there are others in your party who came late to this. And your leader in the Senate isn't really known for being an anti-war figure. I want to play a clip of Chuck Schumer speaking last year. He posted a video about Trump and Iran before the war. Have a listen.
When it comes to negotiating with the terrorist government of Iran, Trump's all over the lot. One day he sounds tough, the next day he's backing off. And now, all of a sudden, we find out that Witkoff and Rubio are negotiating a secret side deal with Iran. What kind of bull is this? They're going to sound tough in public and then have a side deal that lets Iran get away with everything? That's outrageous. We need to make that side deal public. Any side deal should be before Congress and, most importantly, the American people. If Taco Trump is already folding, the American public should know about it. No side deal.
So that's Chuck Schumer last year, egging Trump on to be more hawkish on Iran, saying we shouldn't have any side deals and he needs to be tough in public. That's the kind of rhetoric some people, and you know this, people in your party would say, people in your base would say, that's the kind of democratic hawkishness that emboldens a Trump and emboldens the Republican Party.
You know, there's difference between being hawkish and being stupid, all right? Trump is talking tough. He's going to bomb them into the Stone Age. But what he doesn't appreciate is what's the limits of what can be accomplished through military means. And Iran, led by the Ayatollahs, have an infinite capacity to inflict pain on their own citizens or accept pain inflicted by others. So there has to be some negotiation that should be more transparent. I do agree totally with Senator Schumer that there shouldn't be, quote, side deals. And,
but that was a video very clearly put out to attack Trump from the right. That was not a video saying, let's tone things down, let's do a deal with Iran. That was a video saying, be tougher on Iran. Well, let's be clear.
And also be smarter. But look, I voted just last night against transferring weapons to Israel.
How did Chuck Schumer vote last night?
And he voted for it. We disagree.
How many people
that.
Voted against the weapons?
7 in the Democratic Party.
40 of your colleagues. You and 39 of your colleagues voted to block weapons.
That's correct.
And 7 Democrats, including the leader of your caucus, voted against it. How can he lead a caucus if he's in a minority of 7, Senator Welch?
Well, I don't want to turn this into a discussion about what Chuck Schumer.
I'm just wondering. We don't have to turn it into a discussion. It's a simple question. How does he lead a caucus if 6 people are on his side and 40 of you are against him? I don't understand the math.
Well, he loses some votes. I mean, the reality is there's a lot of space in our caucus. And, when we started out on this, when it came to weapons to Israel, there were 3 of us, Bernie Sanders, Jeff Merkley, and me, who voted no. We now have 40. So
But you're making my point for me, Senator Welch. People watch you and say, okay, I like Peter Welch of Vermont. I like Bernie Sanders of Vermont. There's something in the water of Vermont. We like those guys. They've been taking a consistent anti-war position, anti-weapons to Israel position. But that's not the Democratic Party. You're not the leader. The leader is Chuck Schumer, and he doesn't take that position.
No,
do you understand that people do? I get people telling me this all the time. Democrats are bad, and I say, well, there are good Democrats who are trying to stop this, and they say, but look at the leadership.
Right. So you can have your beef with Schumer on this issue.
Well, 62% of Democrats say they want new leadership in Congress.
No, I understand that. But we can talk about that, and there's going to be an election, and hopefully we're going to get the majority. That's something that Senator Schumer works on incredibly hard, and it's within reach. It was wishful thinking for us to think we could take back the Senate majority. Now it's a very realistic likelihood. Senator Schumer is not the leader when it comes to where the Democratic Party is on what's going on with Israel, in Lebanon, in Iran. And the war is extremely unpopular. And many of my colleagues who were with Senator Schumer on their position just a year ago are now listening to their constituents who do not like this war, who think that it is making us less secure, and do not want to have Benjamin Netanyahu essentially dictating policy. And that's where the focus is. And I think Senator Schumer is going to realize that. And how could he not when we've got 40 Democrats who are making it very clear we don't want to be doing these weapon transfers.
Just on the Middle East issue, you and your Senate colleague Chris Van Hollen of Maryland are behind the Justice for Hind Rajab Act, which seeks accountability for the killing of 5-year-old Hind Rajab, who was murdered alongside 6 of her family members by Israeli forces. Talk to us about this act and what it's supposed to do.
Well, first of all, let's talk about Hind Rajab, and I know you've been involved in this. This is an incredible story. This little girl was with her family. They broke down, and then they needed aid because they had suffered some injuries. The emergency medical staff was coming out. They coordinated with the Israelis, and when they got there, they all got shot and killed, including her. And she was on the phone for a period of time before she died asking for help.
And now there's a movie with the recording.
And now there's a movie with that. And it is a totally unjustifiable killing. And our act, because Senator Van Hollen and I, is for accountability. We want to get to the bottom of it. What Israeli units were involved, what weapons were used, did it involve U.S. Weapons? And we can get no response whatsoever from the Israeli government. So they're acting with impunity. And in this particular situation, the impunity is being used to deny any responsibility for killing this poor little girl who was stuck in this damaged car and died literally within our earshot. It's a tragic case, and Senator Van Hollen and I are horrified by it, and we're doing all we can to demand accountability, both on the U.S. side.
What does accountability look like?
Accountability is finding out who did it, what the circumstances were, and then if there were war crimes, if there was a violation of even Israeli military law, holding those individuals accountable. I mean, the military, in any case, whether it's U.S. or Israeli, there's rules of engagement. And you had this little girl who was pleading in her family, and they just got machine gunned to death. I mean, this is horrifying. And what the military people I know here in this country, they're very, very proud of the fact that they'll do everything they can to abide by rules of law, even when that puts them in some additional peril.
Let me start with the number, because it's the whole story in 2 digits. 40. 7. 40 Democratic senators, including Peter Welch, voted to block weapons transfers to Israel. 7 voted against blocking them. And one of those 7 was Chuck Schumer, the man who is, on paper, the leader of the entire Senate Democratic caucus. Mehdi doesn't editorialize about what that means. He just says it out loud and asks Welch the question that follows naturally from it. How does a man lead a caucus when 40 of his own members just voted against his position and only 6 agreed with him? That's not a gotcha question. That's just arithmetic. And watch what Welch does with it. He tries to close the door immediately. I don't want to turn this into a discussion about Chuck. Mehdi's response is the whole method in one line. It's a simple question. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't need to. He just refuses to let the door close. I want to sit on that dodge for a second, because it's worth understanding what it actually reveals. Welch isn't disputing the numbers. He can't. He was one of the 40. What he's disputing is whether the numbers should mean anything about Schumer's leadership. And that's exactly the kind of protective instinct that keeps a party leadership insulated from its own base for years. If 40 out of 47 of your colleagues have moved on a defining issue and you haven't, the honest response isn't, let's not make this about the leader. The honest response is the leader has a serious problem. Welch eventually gets there. He says Schumer is not the leader when it comes to where the Democratic Party is on Israel, but it takes Mehdi refusing to move off the question to get him to say it plainly. Then Mehdi does something sharper still. He plays Schumer's own words back. A clip from just last year where Schumer is publicly demanding Trump be tougher on Iran, no side deals, no folding, sound tough in public. Watch the position that puts Welch in. He can't dismiss it as old news, because it's barely a year old. He can't pretend it doesn't matter, because it's exactly the hawkish instinct that Mehdi is asking him to reconcile with 40 Democrats now voting the opposite direction. Welch's answer. There's a difference between being hawkish and being stupid. Is a real answer, and credit to him for giving one instead of deflecting again. But it doesn't erase the gap. It just names it. Schumer was pushing toughness on Iran a year ago. 40 of his own senators are now voting to restrain arms to Israel. Those aren't two versions of the same instinct evolving together. That's a leader stuck where his party used to be. And here's the number underneath the number, the one that makes this more than an inside Washington story. 62% of Democrats, according to Welch himself, want new leadership in Congress. That's not a fringe complaint. That's a supermajority of the party telling its own leadership it's out of step. When Mehdi raises that, Welch doesn't dispute it either. He just pivots to the upcoming election and hopes the majority arrives before the leadership question does. That's the tell of this entire segment. Not that Welch is dishonest, but that even a genuinely anti-war senator, one of the original 3 who voted no before it became 40, still instinctively protects the institution over answering the plain question about who's actually leading it. Now here's where I want to slow all the way down, because everything up to this point has been about votes, caucuses, and percentages. Important, but abstract. And then partway through this same conversation, Welch describes something that isn't abstract at all. Her name was Hind Rajab. She was 5 years old. She was trapped in a car with 6 members of her family, all of them already dead or dying around her, and she called for help. She stayed on that phone for a long time before she died. And when the emergency medical team went in to try to reach her, coordinated in advance with Israeli forces so that the rescue itself wouldn't be mistaken for a threat, they were killed too. Killed reaching for a 5-year-old who was already on the phone begging someone to come get her. Welch and Senator Van Hollen have introduced a bill demanding basic accountability for what happened to her. What unit was involved, what weapons were used, whether any of them were American. And here's the detail that should stop you cold. They can't get an answer. Not no comment. Not we're investigating. Silence. A 5-year-old is dead. The rescuers who came for her are dead. And the government responsible won't even confirm which unit pulled the trigger. That's what impunity actually looks like when you stop describing it as a concept and start describing it as a phone call that ended before anyone reached her. Every abstract argument about Schumer's votes, about IPAC's leverage, about the gap between the party's base and its leadership, all of it exists downstream of moments exactly like this one. The 40 senators who voted to block weapons weren't voting on a percentage. They were voting in the aftermath of children like Hind Rajab and a government that won't even answer a basic question about how she died. So here's where this lands. 40 Democrats have moved. Their own leader hasn't. Not fully, not yet. 62% of the party wants new leadership and isn't getting it. And in the middle of all that political math, a 5-year-old girl died on the phone asking for help that came and died right alongside her, and the country responsible for it has offered nothing but silence in return. That's not a talking point. That's the actual cost sitting underneath every vote count we just walked through. If you believe accountability shouldn't require a 5-year-old's death to go unanswered before anyone asks a real question, subscribe to The Honest Perspective. We do the math, and then we sit with what the math is actually counting. I'm Neil. 40 senators moved. A 5-year-old couldn't. Somewhere between those two facts is everything wrong with how power answers for itself. That's The Honest Perspective, and that's where I'll leave you.